Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I'm going to show you guys the whole process from just getting these in to installing some Spartan lockers. They're lunchbox lockers, but I'm going to do front and rear in my 2000 Jeep Cherokee XJ. I've got the 4-door. I've already kind of got started here, got it jacked up. It's got the Dana 30 front like they all do, and mine has the Chrysler 8 1/4 in the rear. So I ordered these Spartan lockers a couple days ago, and I just got them in the mail. Um, they're actually discounted pretty good on Amazon, which is why I bought them. I mean, they're cheap in the first place, but they come packaged pretty good. I don't see any wear and tear or anything. Looks like it has all the pieces in there. Oh, it's upside down. And since mine is a 2000, for the Dana 30, or is it the Chrysler 8 1/4? Whichever one has the different spline count for the different years. The new ones have the 29 spline. I'll double check that and put that in the video, but here's how everything comes packaged up. Just at first glance, it looks like this is for the rear and this is for the front, just because these are much smaller. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So first thing, we're starting on the front. Go ahead and get it jacked up and on jack stands, and we're going to have to pull the axle shafts out so that we can get the carrier. But what we're going to do first, I think, is I'm going to unbolt the diff cover and start that fluid draining, so that by the time I'm done getting all these off, this will all be nice and drained out. So let me get my drain pan, I'll get started on that. One quick thing, once you have all the bolts removed, you can try to pry this up with a screwdriver or something off the gasket, but something that's a little smarter to do so that you don't bang up your diff cover and bend it so that it doesn't seal is to just hit it with a rubber hammer a few times. I'm not sure how much you'll have to try to go at it, but hit it sideways a little bit, maybe from the bottom up. Don't hit straight at it because that won't induce any movement, but hit it a couple times with a rubber mallet if you can before you start prying and stuff. That'll just help you out in the long run. You won't bend your diff cover, you won't have to go buy a new one when it all leaks out, and you won't blow up your front diff after doing your install. Alright, well that drains, we got to take the axle shafts out this way. So we don't have to take them all the way out, but we need to move them a couple inches so that we can get that differential out. We need to get that open carrier out of there. So first, to do that, we got to remove the calipers, which there's just these two nuts back here on the back. You can tell that I've replaced mine recently, but you just pull these off and then take your caliper and set it somewhere. A lot of people put them on their lower control arms just so that you don't put stress on your brake line. There's no need to break a part that's not broken. So you can either put it there, or you can bring over a jack stand and put it on that. Or if you have bungee cords or something, you can hook onto this right here and hook it into your unibody frame there. But we're going to get these calipers removed on both sides, and I'll show you the next step. Alright, so after you've got your caliper removed, and if you get your rotor off, the next step, which that just pulls off by the way, the next step is to unbolt your hub assembly. Some people like to take the axle nut off and remove all this separately, but there's really no need to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the axle nut in place, keep that attached to the hub, and on the back side of the hub there are these 1/2 inch 12-point bolts. There's one on top here, and I mean you can just follow these and go back, but one on top, one here, and one back over here, and get a better angle. Each one of these you pull off from behind, and then there's the top one up there again, and then the other one there. Each one of those you pull off from the back. You don't have to put anything up in here to get them off, but it's a 1/2 inch 12-point socket, so don't try to attack it with a 6-point. But once you get that off, and once this is free, your axle shaft should just slide forward for you. If your hubs aren't brand new like mine, they will more than likely be rusted here to a dust shield, or if you're like mine, your dust shield rusted completely away, it'll just be seized onto this. And since I replaced my hubs, I just pounded the crap out of the hub with a big freaking hammer, and I was able to get that to separate. I might have to do that on the other side because I haven't replaced the hub yet, but this is a really good time to replace your hubs. Alright, so after you've got all 3 of your bolts removed, this should come off. It may still need a little bit of persuasion, but since I don't want to damage mine, I'm going to just use a rubber mallet. And after I give it some taps, it should start to separate just like that. But you see it's starting to separate, and then I should eventually be able to just pull that off. So let me give it a little bit more pounds and get that thing coming out of there. Alright, there we go. We got that unseated right up in here. Maybe I get that to focus. There we go. We got that unseated off of there, and that just slides out nice and easy. And that distance there should be about as far as we need to go. If we move up under the Jeep, you can see that the distance we need to move that out is this distance from the spider gear to the other side of that carrier there, or the bearing there. That's as far as you need to move it so that this can be unbolted and the whole carrier can come out. So you shouldn't have to pull it out too far, but if you need to pull it out any further, you can just pull on it that way. And the procedure is the same on the opposite side. You have to take the caliper off, the rotor comes off, take those 12-point bolts off in the back, probably give it some persuasion, and then your axle shaft will slide out. And after that, we're ready to take the open carrier out of the diff. Alright, so next up we're going to move on to the rear. So we should be able to do this one without pulling the tires off if it's just got the C-clips holding the axles in, which I believe it does. So we have it up on jack stands, we have another drip pan, and we're just going to take all the bolts off around the diff cover on the back. Same thing as the front. Once we get them all off, we'll just hit it with a rubber mallet and it should just pop off and drain into here. And after that, we'll pull the clips off of the axle shafts and then slide the tires out. Alright, so the next step after you've got your cover off is we have to take the pin out of the center. Don't know why that's not focusing very good. Anyways, the pin here, there we go. There's a bolt right here that is a 5/16, I believe. It's actually not an 8mm. A lot of people will get that wrong. And you really don't want to strip this bolt here. So we're going to go ahead and pull that out and then pull the pin out of here. And then start removing, once we pull this pin out, we can move this back around where we can see up in there and push the axles in and pull out those C-clips. Alright, I've got the pin removed. It's right here. Once you get the bolt out, you should be able to just reach behind here and push the pin. It shouldn't have any resistance once you get it unbolted. But now you can kind of see in there where that C-clip is on the end of the axle shaft. So if we just give it a push, just like that, the C-clip will pretty much just fall out. And it'll be like that for both sides. So we'll get in there and we'll get these C-clips removed and pull the axle shafts out and get on to the next step. Alright, now we got the axle shaft slidden out of there. Get this to focus. There we go. We got the axle shafts out of there, so now we should be able to just remove these spider gears. Just like that. And then start putting in the locker. Just right here and here. Get this other one out of there. if you're not going to use gloves, it's really helpful to spray in here with Brake Clean to clean it all up. But these little rubber gloves are not all that expensive. See, there you go. These pull out just like that. And there's a bearing on the back of them, or like a little shim. And there's that one. Just like that. So let me get the locker set up and then I'll show you how to install it. So here's all the stuff that comes in new with the kit. This one is for the rear end, so I guess I'll show the rear end first. Anyways, I have the 29 spline Chrysler 8 1/4 rear end, and so these have 29 splines obviously. This part you have to do yourself, put all this together. There's just here, let me just pull it apart. Let me find somewhere to put this down. Let's see here. So I don't have anybody to record video for me, so I'm having to just kind of find out how to do this on my own. Anyways, this piece here, these all come in separate little pieces, so you'll take this end and you'll put the spring in, and then on this part you go ahead and stick this in there and it'll be springy just like that. And then they have these installation retainer pins. Just push the spring down, stick that down in there, and it holds it close together, tight like that for you, so that you can slide these in. This piece comes in the casing just like this, which is the way it's supposed to go when you install it, so make sure you keep that straight. If you're worried about getting it flipped, these the open end of the bearing, or the centerpiece here, points towards all the different teeth. That way it can go around this edge here when it's installed inside the diff. But all this is what comes new in the kit, except for the C-clips. The C-clips came out of the diff. I just put them in here to keep them away from debris. But it comes with this new retainer bolt for your pin. It's already got thread locker on it. It comes with a new pin. So make sure you use all this new stuff, and when you pull the spider gears out, do not use those thrush washers, is what they're called in the instruction manual. But the little washer right here that's on the back of these, make sure it comes out when you pull out your spider gears. The kit specifically says do not reuse those. So to install this in the diff, we're going to put this piece in first on both sides, since it has to be set in. So have both of these in like that. And then we'll take this piece and slide it in to the middle, and it should sit in there just like that on both sides. Then we can put the pin in, take these guys out, and then there should be a little viewing window, probably it right there. There should be a little viewing window to put the C-clips back in. Not, oh, we can just put these in and then pull the axles back through and put the C-clips in, I'm sure. Let's go ahead and install this bad boy. Alright, as you can see, I've got the left half installed. Make sure you install these outside pieces first on both sides. Then I went ahead and put the C-clip on this axle here, and then put the middle piece on. And notice that this piece is on in the center there. The axle is pushed all the way out. I guess I can see how far in it goes if I push on it. So it pushes out on there. But we want all that to be as far over as we can so we can install this other side. There is a little window to install the C-clip on these guys. So this will be in there like this, but if you rotate it around, you can see this flat piece here is notched out. You can use that as a window to install the C-clip back in. So I'm going to go ahead and do this other side, and then we'll spin it around and take all these retainer pins out, and then the rear end is done. We'll have to refill it with fluid. So there we go, we've got all the pieces in there, except for the C-clip on the passenger side, which I didn't want to do that just quite yet, but I want to show that all the little pins holding these spring pieces in are removed, and the locker should line up just like that with the pinhole. If it doesn't, you can grab your axle shaft and shake it a little bit and get it locked into there. But now we can rotate this over, and we can use this little center slot. Push on the axle shaft to slide the pin right through there, or the C-clip, sorry, right back in through there to lock in the passenger side axle. Once we do that, we'll put the pin in the hole it's supposed to go in, make sure that the nut goes on the correct side, and then we'll be just about wrapped up. Alright, there we go. We've got the big pin in, we've got the new included bolt in there, torque to spec, and we're all set with the rear end. Got the Spartan locker in there. All that's left to do is clean off all this old gasket, put down a new gasket, and fill it with fluid. Let's go back to the front. Alright, so we got the front carrier out of the axle here, as you can see there. When you pull off the bearing caps there, it pretty much falls right out when you pull on it. Make sure that you keep the orientation of how these bolts and the carrier were in order so you can put it back exactly the way they went in. That's pretty important on this install. But the first thing we're going to do, back this up here, is to get the big center pin out. There's this piece that looks like this that we got to hammer out of there with a punch. I'm sure you could use a screwdriver if you wanted to, but I just went out and picked up a set of punches at AutoZone. So we're going to hammer that out, pull the pin, and then you can rotate this in here and pull the spider gears out. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. Alright, I didn't record putting the locker in. I was just kind of running out of time tonight, running out of light. But it's exactly like the rear. Once you get this pin out, you just put all this stuff in the exact same, put the new pin in, and then push in that new, I guess, pin thing that you got to hammer in with a screwdriver or something. A punch, that's what I'm looking for. Anyways, you get that all back in there, you put this in, you make sure you put these all in exactly the way they came out. You got to pay attention to that. And then torque these down to spec. Get all this cleaned up so you can put a new layer of silicone on here. And then fill her with fluid. There's a lot of people that go back and forth about what type of fluid they use. I'm just going to use the standard 80W90. A lot of people say if you use the 140, that it's a little bit quieter when it's ratcheting, but I think I'll be fine with the ones that I have. But anyways, I'm going to spray all this with brake clean because you can kind of see some dust in here. And then get this cleaned up, get it filled with fluid, and then that should be that.